Hey everyone, JagTagger93 here, and yeah, I just played a little bit of Dume Nukem Forever, and I'm about ready to give my opinions about it. I played a couple hours, and yeah, I have some good, some bad, and right up front with you guys, I did not really like this game too much, and opinions for this game seem to range between amazing, best Doom ever, and people who are disappointed. Not a whole lot in between. Most people, though, seem to really like this game. So I just want to nip a few things in the bud right now before I go any further. When I'm criticizing the game, if anyone is like, well, that's because you suck at it, get good, anything like that, that doesn't make much sense for a game like this. I mean, you got checkpoints here, you got tutorials, you got freaking skill trees, okay? So the more you play the game, the more the game will fool you into thinking you're actually getting better at it, even if you got bad habits, that is. So if you keep playing and grinding and brute forcing out the encounters, Doom Guy is going to get stronger. And as the game progresses, he'll get stronger and stronger, become an absolute tank, and those combat scenarios become a lot easier. And the player will start to think, hey, I'm getting better at this game, even if they're not. Now, you could get better at the game, but there's no really way of knowing. It's very different than a classic old school FPS game like actual Doom, where the encounters do get harder. You find yourself kiting enemies, you find yourself making smarter choices about what weapons to use on which enemies given the environment and the situation. And here, it's implemented, but a little different. More on that in a bit. I also want to say, too, that if you like the game, awesome, that's great. Don't let my opinion upset you or anything like that. In fact, if my opinion about the game or I'm criticizing it upsets you in any way, that might be an indication that deep down inside, I'm a little right. And you just can't handle that. You're just one of those types of players who can't handle someone criticizing a game that they absolutely positively adore and love. And that's a sign that maybe the game isn't as good as you think it is or want to think it is. I can take criticism about my favorite games pretty well. My favorite game of all time is Strider. And yeah, I'll admit, it hasn't aged all that great, especially with the jumping mechanics. Ooh, that's ironic, talking about jumping mechanics in Doom Nukem Forever or Doom Eternal, But yeah, or I can criticize the original Sonic the Hedgehog. I absolutely loved it, but yeah, Labyrinth Zone is not a good time, and I can go on and on about games I love that I can criticize and not get bothered by it. But anyway, let's get to it. There is some good things here that I actually did enjoy, and I'll start with the good. So you're not seeing that I'm just bashing for the sake of bashing. And I'm going to start right off with what I saw that made me buy the game, the amount of fan service here. After playing Doom 2016, I was kind of worried that the people behind it didn't really understand what Doom was all about. And I was I was worried. I made a video about it and everything, how I thought Doom Eternal would not be that good. But in the trailers, in the marketing, I saw a lot of references, a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of things that made me think, okay, yeah, they do know what Doom is all about, and this is going to be better. I saw references, I saw the novels mentioned, I saw a portrait of Doom Guy and Daisy, I saw all these little things, and I saw them using old school designs for the demons again too, and I was like, yes, okay, great, we're getting back to basics here, this is going to be great. And I saw all that and I thought, okay, great, this is going to be a game that I like. One thing I saw too was Doom Guy actually appearing human. And Doom 2016, I was very turned off by how Doom Guy was presented as the mythological Doom Slayer, the supernatural entity, and I couldn't really feel invested in a character like that. I feel more invested in a character who's human, up against insurmountable odds, and who's really pissed off that he lost his pet rabbit. There's a whole lot more for me to connect with with a character like that. And in Doom Eternal, they were going to be referencing that. And there's also Dopefish Easter eggs as well, too. So there's a lot of things here that had the trappings of a game that I was going to absolutely love. But in the end, it's not Doom. It reminds me a lot, like, if I may draw a comparison here that may sound a little weird, this game reminds me a lot of the Rob Zombie Halloween movie. And in Rob Zombie's Halloween, Rob Zombie, like the developers for Doom Eternal, love the franchise they're making this property for. Rob Zombie loves the original Halloween. I have no doubt that the people at Bethesda id or New id absolutely love this game. In fact, a lot of what they're saying shows me that they're diehard fans of it and really want to do right by, Doomslayer. With Halloween, there was a lot of Easter eggs and things that diehard fans would notice. And things in the movie, too, that made me really believe that this Halloween was going to be great. They had Danielle Harris coming back, for example. I absolutely loved her in Halloween 4 and 5, and her coming back in Rob Zombie's Halloween. I was like, yes, this is going to be awesome. And, yeah, if you actually watch Halloween, or Rob Zombie's Halloween, you'll see that it bears very little resemblance to the actual old-school Halloween. And this game, Doom Eternal, bears very little resemblance to actual Doom for a lot of reasons. For example, it has monster infighting just like in the original. Unlike in the original, though, it misses the point, and this is something I noticed again and again in the game, where the game will have something that, is reminiscent of old school FPS games, or reminiscent of even old school Doom, but implements it in such a bizarre way, or a way that's not really very meaningful or substantial. So again, the monster infighting, it's here. And early in the game, you're very strapped for ammunition. I can dig it. I understand you're meant to, progress and get Doom Guy even stronger and become the Doomslayer through all the talents and whatnot. So, you're strapped for ammunition. I'd come to an area and I see monsters already engaging in fighting. I think, okay, cool, they're fighting. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to wait for them to weed themselves out a little bit to make this next counter a bit easier. So I'm waiting. I'm watching a zombie slap fight with an imp. I'm waiting. 10 minutes go by and they're still fighting, and I'm like, what the hell? I did see one enemy die from another enemy, I think, but it happened like just once. The monster infighting does not seem to affect gameplay all that much. I mean, for the encounters, yeah, you can get the drop on them, I suppose, but that's about it. They don't actually really kill each other, and I'll be darned if I remember one single instance where I actually had caused monster infighting in the middle of combat. I'm sure it's doable. But no, it's how combat progresses, it doesn't really seem like that's much of a viable option at all. And speaking of combat too, I'm going to already hear fans of the game saying, well, hold on, you love the original Doom because of how every weapon, except the pistol really, has a purpose. You even defended the chainsaw as a viable option for some encounters, and yeah, I do believe in original Doom, with the exception of the pistol, really. Every weapon has a specific purpose and specific utility you'll keep using till the end of the game. But with Doom Eternal, it's very different. Yes, there's certain weapons you are strongly encouraged to use against certain monsters in certain ways. And you're strongly encouraged to take on monsters in specific ways as well, too. And early in the game, you're absolutely penalized brutally for not engaging in combat exactly how the developers want you to do it. So when you're fighting an Arachnotron, for example, you really need to take out that gun on the back of it. Fighting the Arachnotron and not doing that is not going to go well for you at all. It's way too mobile. It doesn't really flinch when you're shooting at it. Under ordinary means, you got to hit its weak point. Same with the Mancubus as well too. The Mancubi have these weak points. They're guns, obviously, and the developers really want you to take those out first. And again, some weapons are better at doing that than others. Same for the Revenant as well too, and other monsters as well too. So some weapons are much better for certain things, and if you're low on ammunition, well, you gotta improvise sometimes with other weapons. But early in the game, that ain't possible. Improvising with other weapons, you're gonna find, is a bad choice because these monsters are absolute bullet sponges. They'll take anything and everything to their body. And then you'll just be strapped with ammunition, relying on your chainsaw to reload ammunition, or waiting for your grenades to recharge too, and that's fun. One thing that could have alleviated this early in the game was having melee a much more viable option. Later on, you get to upgrade the melee, you get a blood punch or whatever, but in the very beginning of the game, if you can actually melee kill monsters, that would be great. I tried fighting a zombie early in the game with just my melee, and the zombie was not going down. Like after 14-15 hits, I just had to take out my gun. I was like, no, the heck with this, and that's just pathetic. Even in the original Doom, you could melee down a cyber demon, provided it's weakened enough, or if you're really good at dodging. There's been times where I'll be completely out of ammunition, completely strapped, and I would chainsaw down an archvile. Using a chainsaw on an archvile isn't exactly the most recommended tactic at all, but it's so satisfying when you're actually able to do it. And you don't have options in combat. Combat is very much you have to make decisions, yes, but there's only really one good decision to make for any given second, and you have to do that one decision that developers want you to do, or else you're not gonna progress. You're not gonna have a good time. Now, the more Doom Guy gets stronger through those talent trees I mentioned, the more other options become viable, and the more bad habits for Doom Eternal don't penalize you as strongly. Most people, though, are not going to get that far. Most people are just going to pick up this game, play a few hours of it, and put it down and think, oh, it's too hard. And again, this game is not hard. It's meant to be challenging at first, but you're meant to get Doom Guy even stronger. One other thing I really don't like about this game is the amount of bullshit layers on top of it. There's just bullshit on top of bullshit on top of bullshit. Your HUD is constantly flashing something, be it low ammunition, rockets locked on you, your screen is red. You have all this stuff happening, all these things, all these widgets, all these Slayer Club points and upgrades and cutscenes, and the Doom guy has a bat cave, and all this layers of just stuff and fluff that it really distracts from the experience. And the best experience of the game really is the combat. I'll admit, when you get it going and you actually have the ammunition to do exactly what you need to do, it's fun. Oh, and right, the platforming, I'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, there's just way too much going on here. Everything is just way too busy, and I'm of the mindset that less is more. The most memorable parts of Doom for me are moments where the screen isn't flooded with a whole bunch of monsters and a whole bunch of stuff. No, the most memorable parts to me are the slow, gradual build to those big moments, okay? You gotta have it both ways. You gotta have that slow, gradual build. And do things with lighting and scenery, too, to make the player anticipate what's going on. The pacing for the levels that I saw so far was basically arena-style combat where you're locked in one area and you have to kill everything. Then it stops, then you progress, then you platform. After you're done with the platforming, more combat where you're locked in a place and you gotta take out all the monsters. Then do some more platforming, and the platforming is just silly. It really is. You're jumping from monkey bars, okay? You're jumping from monkey bars to monkey bars, on the platforms, over the swings, and I'm like, what the hell? Are they taking the absolute piss here? It's just, it's like a playground, really. And I'm not sure who the hell, and I said this with Doom 2016 as well, too, who the hell played the original Doom and said, yeah, the platforming in that game? Oh, we need more of that. We need to give him a double jump and air glide too. No one said that. And I'm not saying old school FPS games can't do platforming. They can do them really well. I mean, look at Dusk. And by the way, that's one thing that I really laugh at. The developers of Dusk right now are praising this game on Twitter. And I absolutely love Dusk. Dusk is by far one of my favorite FPS games of all time. And if you haven't played Dusk, seriously go play it. It's great, and if you want to know what I mean about levels that build up in mood, there you go with Dusk. But anyway, seeing the developers of Dusk praise Doom Eternal just feels weird to me. It feels like seeing David Lynch praise Michael Bay for the the most recent Transformers movie or Eternals movie. It's weird. It really is. And the levels feel very samey so far. I'm sure they changed it up later on, but so far in the game, from what I played, the levels progress more or less, in that style of combat platforming, combat platforming, cutscene end, and that's how they're going. And the levels don't really have their own distinct feel or character to them at all. In the original Doom, each level had its own progressions, own style, be it Barrels of Fun or Go To It or Hunted from Plutonia, or heck, even one of my favorite maps from the original, Phobos Anomaly. Each of them have their own very, very distinct flavor to them, their own very distinct gameplay progression to them, and their own very, very distinct music themes as well that go along with the feel of the entire map. And in Doom Eternal, just like in Doom 2016, you don't have level music really, you have incidental music. You have one kind of music for the platforming and the sections where you're not engaged in combat, but when combat starts, in comes the dubstep-like, it's not dubstep, but it reminds me of dubstep, but how electronic it is, the dubstep-like guitar riffs and whatnot, and it's just, no, I don't really like that at all. And again, the levels all feel very samey to me. I'm sure some people that love Doom Eternal are going to say, no, the levels are different, they are definitely different, because the platforming's a little different in each one, but again, it's all, maybe the combat gets a little harder, or the platforming gets a little more demanding, and there's more climbable walls, but that's about it. And really, I think at the core of my dislike for this game, it really is one about design philosophy. If I was to ask you who are the most dynamic characters in the original Doom, you might say the enemies, and I can see why, but for me and a lot of other players, the most dynamic and memorable characters in the original Doom games are the levels. Each level or each map has its own distinct identity, and they're very memorable. And they communicate things to the player too, like an actual character. And in Doom Eternal, the forefront focus isn't the map design at all. I'm sure it's very important, and I'm sure people worked really, really hard on it, and yeah, there's some gorgeous looking set pieces here and there too. But the focus of Doom Eternal, the dynamic part, the one that everyone is meant to focus on, is Doom Guy. The person who changes over the time is Doom Guy with the talent trees, and those talent trees influence how you do your combat, really. And the second piece that influences your combat is the enemies, and what they dictate that you need to use. Whereas in the original, what dictates what you need to use in combat is the enemies, just like with Doom Eternal, but also the level design as well, too. And yeah, no, it's very different here. And I think that's really about it. I can go on, but I think you get the picture. Doom Eternal is not really a game for me. It's just too much stuff, really, when I'm playing the game and I see, Slayer's Club this, talent points that, upgrade that, content pending download this, and all this layers of just, again, bullshit. I get a real sensory overload. And yeah, sometimes less is more, and that's all I really have to say about it. Thank you all for watching. This is JagTagger93 signing out. You all have a good one.